But I was bringing it back to sports because I was saying, you know, you personally tried to recruit Mbappe for Tottenham.
I did, yeah.
And I just thought that was amazing because I was like, I've never seen this ever happen before where, you know, someone's using their clout in the right way.
Listen, I saw him. I'm a mad Tottenham fan. And I just thought, now's my chance. And he said no. The deal didn't go through. No signing bonus for myself. This is one of the things why I've sort of distanced myself from the rugby community, because so much of it is about how much can you drink? Let's get you as drunk as possible. And it's honestly been the best thing I've ever done. I'm a year and a half into it now. It doesn't even cross my mind. I've found amazing replacements that I think are fantastic. Ones that are also really healthy. I found this one beer that it's full of electrolytes.
When I was 18 was when I first met a monk. I never really knew what monks did or any of their practices. But I met a monk who I write about in my book who just blew my mind because he was the first person I met that I felt was at ease with himself. And when I was 18, I'd met people who were like rich and famous and, you know, beautiful and powerful and all this type of stuff. But I don't think I'd met anyone who was truly happy and content with themselves, not happy like, oh, I'm so happy, life's amazing.
Right.
I mean more like happy with who
at
they
peace.
are.
He is my favorite boxer. He was like, I guess, a really talented boxer. And then I don't know if this is true, but his dad sent him to go and study dance for sort of 5 years or something like that.
For his boxing
training. Which is why his footwork is like on another planet.
Wow.
There's loads of examples of where he's fighting people and they look up and he's just gone. He's behind them. So I really admire him. But his most recent fight, he lost.
One of the things that you mentioned recently was that you gave up drinking about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And you said it was the hardest thing you ever did.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what was so hard about it for you? Why was it so hard?
It's interesting. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I just, like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation, I was drinking a lot. And I've always been able to drink a lot.
And just having that space to be seen for as a human who is going through stuff by a teacher was a huge, huge win. And so, you know, you are right that help can come in all different forms and it doesn't have to come in the ways that we expect it to come in.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a professional.
Yeah.
I go to my friends a lot. And you know, some friends are better than others in certain situations. I've got some friends that are very much like pull your socks up and get on with it.
One of the things I love about caves is that they're equally dark and silent.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the first time, like we could be silent in this room and it would be silent, but the silence of a cave is just different
level. Yeah.
And so when you go in there, you can't see anything either. So you can't even see yourself.
So you're so deep into the cave that there's no light from the mouth of the cave.
There's no light from the mouth of the cave.
Oh, I don't know about that, mate. That would really stress me out.
No, you hold hands. No, I feel like Haaland's kind of like, I've always compared Haaland to like Ivan Drago. Like he was made in a lab.
Right.
Like he was made, like he was manufactured to be this incredible talent.
He is incredible.
And I think City's good with like, he admits, like he scores a lot of tap-ins. And I think that's his game.
Yeah, but mate, there's no pictures on a scorecard, you know?
No, in a good way.
Totally.
I'm saying like he's been built in that way and City play that way. I don't know if Kane's a tapping guy. Like his goals have generally been a bit more diverse in that sense.
Magic.
Like, yeah.
Magic is the way I would describe Kane. But I just love to see him have the career I know he could have.
Yeah.
I think that's a great move. Yeah. I love that. I had a few weekends where I'd say to my mum and dad, I'm going to my friend's house, and I would go to Barcelona.
How did you pull that off, mate?
Just sneaky, bro. I just love players. I think Jude Bellingham's amazing. Yeah. Less about the teams. It's about the player. So I would just love to see what he could do there.
But at the same time, I was really intentional about building community and family. Mm-hmm. And it was like an actual like thought process.
Sure.
Where I was like, as well as you're always building the people you know at work, you're always building relationships, you're hiring employees and team members and everything. At the same time, I've got to think about actually making friendships because in London, I've got all my mates. So I've got my best man at my wedding. I've been mates with Raj for like 17 years. Like I've got people around me, but in LA, I don't have that. I don't have any family, any friends. I don't know anyone. And so I really made an effort. And now after 5 years, I can honestly say, you know, obviously not in a wonderful way, but the pandemic did help deepen some of those friendships because I was stuck with those people. So I only could go deeper. Made some really good friends.
Nice.
And so I feel happy there and I feel really connected to my purpose there. And at the same time, I love coming back to London.
Right.
and hanging out with my mates. And so it was almost like original AI that was made up to prove the point that you can love someone and you can think you're really close to them and you could think their lifestyle looks amazing, but actually they've got a drink in every picture they post and you didn't realize they had an alcohol problem.
I think that's one of the problems with alcohol is that if you came out with alcohol right now, if alcohol wasn't a thing and you like, I've invented this drink that is going to make you like either really happy or really aggressive or really stupid, and we're going to just sell it to the masses. And it's one of those things, because it is so socially acceptable, the addiction side of it, the bad sides of it really do fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Everyone's missed you. And it shows like how a stupid decision like driving drunk can affect the future of your life.
But that was beautiful. And the second thing you said, which I loved, which was having this conversation and dialogue with other people, someone who's 1 year ahead of you, someone who's 10 years ahead, someone who's 20 years ahead, who's gone through that process, and they're open and honest and vulnerable about, well, you know what, I did have a weak moment, or you know what, this was really tough for me. And I think having those communities where you can talk about these things makes a massive difference. So if anyone's struggling, I hope that those two things can kind of, you know, give you the support you need.
But this time, I don't know, it was just different. I really worked to sort of change my mindset. I really asked myself, like, why do you drink? Why are you drinking? And a lot of the time my answer would be to feel more comfortable in the social environment.
Yeah.
And I just put myself in those environments and just would force myself to be there. I'd force myself to hang out and go to a club or go to a bar, go to a dinner. But then after a while, I sort of was like, mate, you've got to pull your socks up here, and you can't just live in your house all the time. You've got to go out and enjoy yourself. And if you're only enjoying yourself because you're drinking, then you really do have a problem.
I was like, crap, am I going to fit in? And I'm like, I'll come, but I'll have a water or I'll have a soda, whatever it is.
Sure.
That were actually better.
Yeah.
So now that I couldn't drink as an excuse to hang with the lads, I was bringing out parts of my personality that I probably would have just hidden away
Suppressed.
or ignored.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm delighted that my mum's has also given up. She's loving it. I can't believe the difference that I feel from not drinking.
Yeah.
I feel amazing.
I love hearing that. And I love hearing that it's been great for you, right? I think that's the point. Not everything has to be like, look what I did, you can do it too. It's kind of like, no, this is just what's been great for me. But for me, it was more that. But yeah, I wonder for you, did you find that there's a really fine line between like, oh, I know I can drink a lot, and then all of a sudden you're kind of not addicted beyond that.
No, addicted, mate. Like, I'm happy to say, like, I was definitely addicted to alcohol, not shying away from that at all. And since I've given it up, I can sleep anywhere. So I'm over the moon to be sober. I love it.
For anyone who is listening right now and is going, Tom, I love that for you, I want to do it too.
But no, I owe a lot to my dad, and a lot of the teachings are things he's told me and things I've just witnessed him do.
Yeah. And was there ever a piece of feedback or a rumor or something you saw that did affect you, where you actually thought, well, or at least made you stop and go, God, I'm trying to see the positives, but this one's tough. Like this actually made me have to pause and figure it out.
Something that did really upset me, if you're struggling, if you need help, if you feel bad and you wake up and you go to a friend, a therapist, a teacher, an employee or a colleague and say, I'm really struggling, I need some help. That should be something that we give you a pat on the back. Like, I would love to help you. I'd say sort of more than a memory is just a feeling that I could say all of my brothers and I had, was that because our dad's a comedian, his job only ever existed once we had gone to bed, and our mum worked from home. So we had this amazing foundation where no matter any time of the day, either mum or dad would be at the house, and we felt so kind of solid as a family, which is why like I kind of have this dream of one day having kids and putting my work to bed and just kind of being there as a dad. Me as an actor, I realized that my job is a high pressure job because it reaches millions of people. But that said, there are so many people that help me get to where I need to be. Mm-hmm. I get picked up, someone makes me breakfast, someone writes the words that I'm supposed to say, someone chooses my costume, someone does my hair and makeup, someone sets the camera up. Ultimately, I walk onto set and I do my bit, but I'm a small part in a massive machine. But when you look at someone like Djokovic or Federer or, you know, this new Alcaraz, you know, or the golfers or Lewis is slightly different because Formula One is so much about the team and the car and all that sort of stuff. They have to do it themselves at a certain point. There's only so much help they can get. But then when they walk onto that court for the first time, when they walk into the ring or into the octagon, it's them by themselves. But I have worked with people that shut their bedroom door and just dive into the character and are pouring through the script every night and and are in character all the time. And I admire them. I don't necessarily think it's the healthiest way to go about it. But yeah, I've always been really strict on myself to leave my work at work. Obviously, I come home and read the script and do all of my prep work, but I'm leaving the character at work because it's too much, especially when you're playing a character like Danny from The Crowded Room. Like, you can't bring that into your personal life. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm actually glad I asked it to you either way, because what I'm actually hearing is you did it early on and you saw it wasn't healthy.
Sure.
And so you actually found another way.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because a lot of people may not have found another way, or that is their way and that is their method. Mm-hmm. As viewers, we don't get it because we don't really hear about the deep process that actors go through of getting into a role, playing someone with multiple personalities. Like, you know, that I don't know. Is that tough, or is it actually, or is that not, am I getting it wrong and that's not actually the tough part?
You're definitely not getting it wrong. I think it's just different. It's case by case, you know. There are people like Jared who dive into their roles and they do things like sending people dead rats and stuff like that, and they think that that's what they need to do. I've always been really good at separating my on-set emotions from my personal life emotions. As a young kid, I used to really heavily rely on my personal emotions to get them to come across on screen. And I just found it really unhealthy. I just found that like the line between my life and my character's life would be blurred.
It must have been how powerful he was. It's kind of like you wake up when the sun's out and the light's out, and you just wake up because you feel that energy. And I felt it through him. And then I went to university and I'd talk to him and I'd meet him in the summers and Christmases. But I just decided, I was like, I want to do this because I'd met someone who I felt had emotional and mental mastery in a way that I'd never seen before.
Wow.
And so when I went out there, and whether it was the meditation training or whether it was the simplicity training of the lifestyle, or whether it was the teachings and the values that you had to live by, I got so much from it that I honestly believe that anything that I'm good at doing today is because of what I learned during that time.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting for me is not relying on drinking made me rely on qualities and skills I had that were actually better.
Yeah.
So now that I couldn't drink as an excuse to hang with the lads, I was bringing out parts of my personality that I probably would have just hidden away or ignored.
I didn't fall back on it.
All of a sudden, you were actually getting respected and liked for who you were, rather than the person who you were when you were drunk. Yeah, I was suppressed. And actually, that worked in the workplace. And there was no one at the workplace going, "Oh, Jay doesn't drink, so he's not getting promoted."
Right.
It wasn't like that. People were like, "Oh, yeah, I really like hanging out with Jay," or he's a really good guy, or whatever it may be. And I was still getting the same opportunities, and I was still getting promoted at work and whatever it was. And I think that's what I'd like to remind people, that don't feel like your career or your work is going to suffer. Even for you, like I'm sure as a, you know, with your career path, you have to be at parties, you have to be at events.
Of course.
And it's almost like the rugby pitch was more stressful because everyone 100%. Was like, you know, trying to be intense and trying to be this and that, whereas everyone was just having a laugh at the dance class. And we do everything from hip hop to street to whatever. But yeah, I remember never telling, I think this is the first time I've ever spoken about it.
It's out there.
Because I'm in a safe space with you. So
but it's interesting because rugby's regimented, isn't it?
I love rugby, by the way.
You play a position that is as specific as saying the blind side flanker. You know, when you're a dancer, you're just a dancer. You know, you can fit in however you want to fit in. Yeah. The teacher can ask you, how are you feeling about that? Rather than like, you need to get your head down to the left to make a proper tackle. I did love playing rugby when I was smaller. Do you still play any sport? Where do you play?
Well, we will just play on like a 7-a-side pitch or a 5-a-side pitch, like close to northwest London, which is where most of my mates are. I love playing football when I'm back here. Okay, so that's one of the things. My mates know that when I'm back in London, we're going to play a game. I'm not any good anymore, but I still got the full kit and the socks.
I've actually got Neymar's kit, like from him. Oh. You best believe I'll show up to 5-a-side in his full kit.
I love it. Is it signed by him too?
But there's a quote from Billie Jean King that's on the stand at her stadium in New York that says, "Pressure is a privilege." And that is so true. Like, oh my God, feeling pressure on a daily basis in the capacity that we feel is such a privilege. I love feeling pressure. I feel like I thrive under pressure. The best golf I've ever played in my life is when there are cameras around and people are watching. Allowing like your gut, your energy to kind of allow yourself to pursue further the opportunity. Yeah. And then you take a sort of mental look at it to be like, I'm accepting the opportunity from an emotional point of view. Now I need to see if it makes sort of logical sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I've found that more useful for me because I found that energetically I can get excited about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, and I'm that kind of person.